So you've been studying, you've been watching videos, you've been experimenting, you figured out what you want to do. The best solution for your rig is to use an effects loop. But your LR Baggs DI only has one connection for the effects loop. So what do you do? Many amps, preamps, multi-effects pedals, etc. have what's called an effects loop that allows you to insert some outboard effects into the middle of your signal chain. There are a variety of reasons that might be the right thing for you to do. Maybe you want to use the preamp in your device before you send to the effects. Believe it or not, a preamp signal sent to a distortion is going to sound different and act different than the reverse scenario. If you have an LR Baggs Paracoustic DI, which is one of my favorite tools, it needs power. You can either get power through phantom power from the board through the XLR connection, or you can use a 9-volt battery. If you're using phantom power, this needs to be the last thing in your chain. So by using the effects loop in the middle of this can be the first and the last step in your chain. You may have a case where you have a pedal that overdrives easy. I've got one of those. And so what I do is I put that in my effects loop. With my multi-effects pedal, I can turn the send down so it doesn't overdrive the pedal. Then the signal comes back and I can turn the return up, so then it's back to the same level that I used to be. Fishman Loudbox amps have effects loops too. There are 2 jacks in the back of that amp. One is for the send and one is for the return. It's pretty straightforward. But the Paracoustic DI and many other devices have 1 jack. This is what's known as an insert. So you'll need a special kind of cable called an insert cable. It's a stereo 1/4-inch cable on one end and dual mono on the other. Remember when we talked about stereo cables, you can see that this has a tip, a ring, and a sleeve, and this just have a tip and a sleeve, okay? This one actually says tip and ring, which tells you which one connects to where on this cable. So there are 3 wires inside this cable. There is a positive, a negative, and a neutral. So the neutral will be shared between the 2 connections on the other end. And then your send is going to go down one and the return is going to come back on the other. So that your send and return actually travel down and back on the same wire. Most analog soundboards also have an insert connection for each channel. You may notice that when you look at the back of a board, you'll see an XLR connection and then you'll see 2 1/4-inch connections. One of those is for a 1/4-inch input. The other one is for an insert. Don't get those backwards or it's not going to work for you. This allows the sound engineer to insert some effects on any given channel. Basically cuts the number of jacks that you have to have in half. In a small unit like a Paracoustic DI, or in a really crowded place like the back of a soundboard, space is at a premium. It also cuts the number of cables that you need in half. So when you're rolling 100 cables at the end of a night, you're going to be glad that it's not 200, right? So that's just a short explanation of what an insert cable is and how to use a single jack effects loop.